Sooner or later, I hope it dawns upon you that everything that we do through these videos is trying to explain to you how you can use your mind from many different angles. Today I wanted to share a concept originally talked about by Emmet Fox called the mental equivalent. It's a very fascinating way of looking at your own consciousness all over again. So let's get right into it through this video. Alright, welcome back. We gotta make a bunch of videos in a row, so here we are with another one. Didn't upload yesterday. It's sometimes kind of hard to upload daily when we're talking about such serious subjects concerning consciousness, because we don't want to take this lightly like it's just something to brush over. It can actually help anyone once we start getting a deeper understanding of what it's all about. Now, in this video, I want to talk about a couple of things that Emmet Fox talked about in one of his lectures called the mental equivalent. Now, I think originally, since this is a book format, but it was a lecture that they turned into a little book, it's only about, well, I guess, 40 pages long. The letter type seems to be fairly huge. I mean, if you look at it, maybe not noticeable. Because of that, it's bigger than it actually would be in a normal sort of letter type with books. So what I'm getting at is this wasn't originally a book, that's all. But somebody created a book out of it. This was originally given, I think, after World War II, somewhere in the 1940s. I don't know the exact date, I didn't look it up, but it's vaguely in my memory that it was around that time period. So again, at least half a century ago. Now, what did he say that is so powerful? Well, he talked about building mental equivalents in order to change your life. It's again a different wording of saying you have to change your mind in order to change your life. So what we're getting at with these videos is approaching your consciousness from many different angles. They're all aiming at trying to show you how you can use your own conscious mind, your own mind in general, in order to improve your life. Because ultimately that power resides within you, and we all need to be reminded of it or even taught about it before we can actually work with it properly. Now, in one of his lectures, as they called it chapter 3, or we just might as well call it lesson 3, he said something that is pretty interesting. In this lecture, he said, "You experience in the outer what you really think in the inner. This is the meaning of the old saying, as within, so without. Note carefully that in the Bible, the word within always means a thought, and the word without means manifestation or experience. That is why Jesus said that the kingdom of heaven, health, harmony, and freedom is within. Harmonious thought means harmonious experience, and fear thought or anger thought means suffering or frustration." Now, he went on to say a little further on, when we're going towards the point of how we can change our lives with this information. He said, "You must change your thought and keep it changed. That is the secret of controlling your life, and there is no other way. Change your thought and keep it changed. If you want to change some condition in your life, you must change your thought about it and keep it changed. Then the condition will change accordingly. All that anyone else can do for you is to help you change your thought. But you yourself, ultimately, I'm trying to help you do that, but you yourself must keep it changed. No one else can think for you. To change your thought and keep it changed is the way to build a new mental equivalent. It is a secret of accomplishment." Now, those are some interesting words right there. If this is how you can accomplish whatever you want, well, let's look at this picture again on the side. Well, this time you can notice there's some red lines and red text on there that I added to it specifically for this idea of the mental equivalent. Now, let's start at the right top corner. You see a red arrow going towards the senses. Those lines in the middle represent your senses: see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. Well, next to it I wrote in red, your senses are influencing your mind. Now if we go to the left top corner of this picture, you see a red text that says, With these, we build a new mental equivalent and an arrow going downwards towards the mental faculties, which is you have an imagination, willpower, memory, perception, reason, and intuition. Reason being your thinking faculty, right? Don't get that wrong. Sometimes people might mess it up for whatever reason. In the middle again, we have the conscious mind, that large circle, it says the conscious mind. There we set the mental equivalent. Underneath it we say the subconscious mind, it's the emotional mind. Now, if we're talking about building a new mental equivalent, how are you going to do it? Are you going to be using your mental faculties? Again, you have an imagination. You can imagine whatever you want. By even attempting to use that imagination, you're actually in the process of building a new mental equivalent. And that equivalent will ultimately find expression in and as your life. However, what happens with most people? Well, as I said, at the top right corner, their senses are influencing their minds, meaning they let the outside world determine what sort of mental equivalents they are building. Or in other words, they let the outside world determine what they're going to think about, what they're going to be imagining about. With these videos, I'm only suggesting you start using your own mind the way you want to use it. I'm not going to give you any ideas on what you should be thinking or imagining about specifically, because it's up to you. You have free will. You have the freedom to choose whatever you want. You have the freedom to go wherever you want to go with your life. This is so beautiful. Well, sadly, we don't take the freedom, and I think the time has come that we embrace that freedom that was given to you and me. Now if we go back to the right side of the picture, somewhere in the middle there's another paragraph of red text. I said, you walk away, you ignore it, or you build a new mental equivalent. These are essentially the only three options we have when contradicting things occur in our worlds. Now, I want you to really think about this one. Most people, they're very good at walking away and they're very good at ignoring stuff. But the majority is oblivious to the idea of building a new mental equivalent of what they want. For example, let's say you're currently at your work and there's people that are annoying you for whatever reason. You're not in harmony with them. There's always conflict. There's always this tension between you in a negative way. You're like, I don't really like this person. I don't like him or her. I don't like how they treat me. Well, you have an option to walk away or to ignore it. Well, if you're on the payroll of the company, it might not be the smartest move to literally walk away from your work itself, because if you do it often enough, you're going to get fired, most likely. So then the option is you learn to ignore it, because this is all coming into your mind through the senses. These people, you're observing them through your senses. However, there's other situations where people might walk away. Whatever the situation is, you're outside, you're doing your own thing out in the world, something bad happens, people are treating you badly, you're like, you know what, I'm out, and you walk away. You go back home, you go to a place where you feel more comfortable. Now these are the two options most people are familiar with. But what we're talking about in this text is building an entirely new mental equivalent that can help us drastically change everything about our lives. So instead of walking away or ignoring alone, you actually want to replace it entirely, so you never have to walk away as often or ignore things as often ever again, because that's a pattern most people have. Have you ever noticed how people, for example, with relationships, they might be dating all sorts of people and they constantly keep saying, I keep getting the same sort of guy in my life. I keep getting the same sort of woman in my life that I do not like. We never fit, it never works out. Well, stop walking away, stop ignoring it, just build a new mental equivalent, become clear on what sort of relationship you really want, learn to dedicate your mental faculties towards building a vision of such a relationship, and then hold on, stay loyal to that concept. Then you're going to find that some people are going to be falling out of your life and new people are going to show up, and at the same time the new people that might show up, you also learn to sort of measure and monitor them according to the mental equivalent that you made in your mind, so that way you can make sure you don't constantly end up in bad relationships. And that is just one easy way of explaining this, I figured, when we talk about relationships, because we're all familiar with that. It's a very important part for the average person in their lives. Yet it's also one of the most difficult. The most drama occurs within personal relationships between people, let's be honest. Because we all have a different idea of how we think life should be, therefore there's conflict more easily. However, as Emmet Fox stated, if you go back to what we just discussed concerning those mental faculties that you can use, well, the trouble with most people is not that they do not change their thought, but they do not keep it changed. Now that is some powerful way of putting it. A very obvious, simple way, in fact, but very powerful. Because think of this. This all ties down to the idea that you can think about how you could improve your life. You already have all sorts of ideas on how you would like it to be. You have all sorts of ideas on how you would wish you could live. So those are actually thoughts that could improve your lives. The problem being, we are not keeping our minds directed at this new direction. We don't keep it focused on these new thoughts on how we can improve our lives. No, we only temporarily think of how we can improve it, and then we go back to our old ways of living. It's like a habitual thing. Habits control us all. We better become trained in the habit of working with our own minds instead of letting the outside world control that mind again. Again, he said, change your thought and keep it changed. Not for 10 seconds or even 10 days, but steadily and permanently. And then you will build a new mental equivalent. And a mental equivalent is always demonstrated. The secret of harmony and success is to concentrate your thought upon harmony and success. I think the easiest way for me to sort of talk about this is, let's look at habits that you have in your world. We all have habits that we do not like. We indulge in activities that might not be beneficial to our own well-being. Addiction is a very interesting one because it's both psychologically and physical. Now, I've experienced it with this in my own personal life concerning alcohol. Right now I'm sober, thankfully, but I'm starting to realize every time I would ever relapse, or every time I see other people relapse, I remember I or them would say, I want to be sober, I want to be clean. So basically what we're saying is, I want to change this area of my life. So there we changed the thought. We changed our mental equivalent of what life should be about. Not being an addict, but being sober and clean. So that's a mental equivalent. However, the relapse, when those occur, the mental equivalent that we built is thrown out the window, and we go back to the old way of living, the old way of thinking and acting. Meaning, we didn't keep our thoughts changed the way he suggested we should do. We have to really take this serious, because you can think about anything you want. Therefore, you don't have to think about the results if they're not to your liking at all. You can start thinking in the direction of what you want. But again, the problem is that we don't change our thought, it's that we don't keep it changed. So with me in sobriety, for example, what it means is that I have to become very clear on whether I want to be healthy physically. If I want to be healthy physically, it means that alcohol or drugs cannot play a role in my world. Maybe they do in yours. It's all fine. If you're happy with that, if you don't have any conflicts, well, go right ahead, right? But I know people struggle with that. Now, this is probably a very strong example when we talk about addiction, but I hope it sort of conveys the idea of what I'm talking about. It's that we all have things in our lives that we want to change, and we can think of the change, but we also have to become aware of the fact that if it doesn't change, if we go back to our old ways of living, it's simply because we didn't keep our minds changed into that new direction, towards that new direction that we were aiming for, that we decided upon within our own consciousness, that we build a mental equivalent of. Basically, we build a vision of where we want it to go, and we have to learn to obey that vision. So in the case of addiction, yeah, sobriety would be a vision for them. Isn't always easy, but this works for any area of your life. Career-wise, relationship, health-wise, whatever it is, your finances, you can do the same thing. But again, we have to become serious about this. We have to learn to focus and keep our minds focused on where we actually want to go. But again, the picture here, it says it. Your senses are influencing your mind. Every single day, all sorts of crap, so to speak, happens to you, to me, to everyone. That's totally the polar opposite. That's totally contradicting what we really desire to have in life. We have to learn to become self-directed individuals, meaning we become directed by our own minds instead of by the world itself or what other people are throwing at us. Once we start doing that, well, that is when you discover it's true. When you build a new mental equivalent, it will always be demonstrated, as Emmet Fox beautifully stated. It will be demonstrated, it will be expressed, it will become your life. It will become part of who you are within your own personality. So you start acting differently, and again, all sorts of stuff starts to shift around in your physical life. All so that you can live a free life, a better life. Now, a little further on in this lecture, Emmet said, the secret is to keep your thought changed into the new condition. So keep your thought carefully, quietly expressive of the new condition that you want to produce. Believe what you are thinking, and to prove that you believe it, you must act the part. Act your part as though the new condition were already in being in the outer. If you will do this, the new condition will presently appear in the outer, because the outer is always but the projection or the outpicturing of the inner. Now, this is really true. This is something that you're witnessing with this channel all over again. I know some of you have seen my old videos in the past that I used to make. Nobody can deny that these videos, these presentations are totally different than what I used to do in the past. Now, the reason for that is because I started first building a new mental equivalent, really starting zooming in on how I wanted to present these videos, how I could improve this. And then, as I did exactly what he suggested, I started acting the part. So that's why I'm making the videos. I'm not just thinking about improvements in my life. I'm also working on acting according to that improved condition that I built in my mind. Now, that might be a tricky one for you to grasp if you haven't studied your own mind for very long. What we're getting at is, again, the idea that you can either let circumstances control and guide your life the way things already are, or you can let thought and imagination control and guide your life. So what you're noticing here is that with all these videos, the ideas that are being conveyed constantly aim back, all the way back towards you and your own mind. Because that's what we're aiming for, to help you understand your mind better. Again, for many people it takes some time to think about it, but the picture that I showed earlier in this video symbolically represents who you are. I can put it on the screen again. Here, look at it. What I actually suggest you do from now on, or at least start trying to do, is to imagine that stick person, that picture, imagine it being you, because we're talking about you, me, and everybody else. You have a conscious mind, and a subconscious mind, and a body. So if you look at this picture and just start pretending that is you, you're like, okay, yeah, I have sensory factors, that's right. I have a conscious mind, that's right. I have a subconscious mind, that's right. And I have a body, that's right, Renil. I mean, it's right for everyone. Now, by looking at yourself as if you are that stick person, you start to change your perception of yourself and what you're capable of doing. That's the secret. Because before, you might have only looked at yourself as, maybe it's harsh, a weak person, like just a simple little human being. But you're not a simple little human being. There's way more to you than meets the eye, as I like to say. Now, what is that? What's there that is more to you than meets the eye? What's your conscious mind and subconscious mind? Because those two aspects can't be seen. They can't be touched or grabbed by anybody. but you can experience them within. You experience them within yourself. Now, I also wrote down earlier that when we talk about the conscious and subconscious mind, many people are like, well, maybe I have subconscious fears and beliefs, and therefore I cannot achieve anything that I want. Well, this is the thing. Your conscious mind is where you build the mental equivalent, the vision, the thoughts of what you want. That's where you can focus. That's where you decide on where you're going to focus your mind. So you're going to focus it on what you want. You're going to focus it on the visions of what you want your life to be like. Now the subconscious mind, that part that is beyond your normal reasoning, beyond the way you generally think about things, well, that's your emotional mind. That's why you have to invoke your emotions. They go beyond thought. You know, you have the realm of your own thinking and imagination, but you also have that realm of emotions. Now, if these two are in harmony with each other, if you're in love with your own imagination about where you want to go, well, then it's going to influence your subconscious mind. We don't want to make this more difficult. Subconscious mind, it lies beyond your conscious reasoning awareness. Yeah, those are emotions, because a lot of times emotions cannot be expressed in words. It's like love, fear, etc. We cannot express these in words. We can only describe them symbolically to allegory or whatever. Really think about that one, because it can give you a lot of insights on how to use your mind from this day forward to improve your life in whatsoever direction you want it to go. Right, so what you want to take away from this video is that the problem for you and me is not that we don't change our thinking. We do it all the time. The problem is that we don't keep it changed. So let's assume you think about something very positive and optimistic for yourself and your world. You found an idea that can really improve your life. Now the problem for most of us is that we only think about that new idea for a little while, maybe for a few minutes, few hours, perhaps a few days, and then it just sort of fizzles. We let go of it again. Why? Because maybe the improvement doesn't show up instantly or fast enough in our physical lives. But what we understand is, we have to understand, is we just want to keep our thoughts changed in that direction regardless of how long it takes for it to show up into physical form. If we keep doing that, we will keep growing towards that direction, because we always grow towards the very things we are focused upon inside our own minds. Never forget this, and as always, remember that we are the dreamers.